Hi, this is Stan Fitzgerald representing the Center for Renewing America. It's an organization founded by Russ Vought, who was the White House budget director for the Trump administration. And he is starting this organization to form a national coalition where we're going to work on border security, election integrity, and government oversight. One of the things that Russ specifically asked me to do was rip his videos and put them on our platform. So for starters, we're going to do that. My wife, Donna, and I will be working on the ground in Georgia with Wesley Ross. If you're from Georgia, you know who he is. So you could reach out to myself, to Wesley. We'll get you connected with the long-term plan if you want to help us. And we're going to be officially partnering with Veterans for America First to use our platform to reach more people in this effort to help save America. So please watch these videos, visit the website. I'll be on weekly calls with the team, and we'll keep you updated on how you can help.
Ryan's question becoming a hot topic on social media with Senator Ted Cruz commenting on the question to Joe Conch's tweet saying, "The roads are racist. We must get rid of the roads." Joining me now, former OMB director, Center for Renewing America president, Russ Vought. Russ, I really didn't know. I'm just not going to say anything. Just your reaction to that exchange.
Yeah, it was a stunning exchange. Number one, you only hear the same example that people have been using since 1920 and 1930 of Robert Moses and the bridges, and we never hear anything about anything recent. And I think the reporter herself got to the radicalness of the agenda. When you can say that any road or bridge is racist, you now have an incredible leverage point to reconstruct entire communities on the basis of power. And that is something that should be incredibly scary to communities across the country. This is not just an infrastructure bill. This is a desired outcome to be able to reconstruct communities and to assert that roads and bridges are fundamentally flawed because they were designed on the basis of racist choices.
Russ Vought, Joe Concha, jump in here. He mentions the master builder, Robert Moses, and he allegedly here in New York City ordered that bridges be built low enough to discourage travel to and from Long Island beaches. That being said, I think about what hurts lower income Americans, what hurts Black Americans, Latino Americans living in cities is the poor public transit. And so that is a problem in the most liberal cities in the nation. Here in New York City, the subway system is an abomination, and it is it's a hardship for people in the outer boroughs who have to commute to work. And so people who find racism and everything choose to overlook the horrible conditions in San Francisco and the just poor infrastructure there. But just jump in here with Russ, Joe.
Well, I'll actually quote Bill Maher, which is odd considering the topic. But he had a great line a couple of weeks ago on his show on HBO. He says, the problem with our country is while China is building new bridges, we're thinking about what to rename them, right? In this situation, I just don't understand where the transportation secretary is going with this. So are we going to now deconstruct bridges, say in New York City, where traffic, I'm 20 miles out here in Jersey, and during rush hour sometimes takes me an hour and a half, 2 hours to get into the city. What are we going to deconstruct exactly? We're going to start with the George Washington Bridge, or are we going to start with the Brooklyn Bridge or this overpass? It's nice to say, I guess, if you're trying to appeal to the woke crowd, but I want to know what kind of money is going to be spent to reconstruct all of these buildings. And by the way, April Ryan, who asked that question, I'm old enough to remember when she actually agreed to host a fundraising event for Pete Buttigieg when he was a 2020 presidential candidate. reporters aren't supposed to be doing that. And only after she got caught did she say that, oh, I didn't know it was a campaign event. So that's where we stand here. The Transportation Secretary, Dagan, and Pete Buttigieg should be asked about the supply chain crisis. And have you visited one port, one in Long Beach or Los Angeles or Savannah or Newark, New Jersey? Of course you haven't, because that's your job right now, and not to be talking about this sort of rhetoric, which can never actually become reality unless we're talking about spending trillions on reconstructing and deconstructing bridges and overpasses and roads all over the country.
And Russ, I think that you hit on something as well, that this effort, using racism to reconfigure or reconstruct communities, this opens the door for the money grab. The over $1 trillion infrastructure plan, they're at literally like tens of billions of dollars in this thing that just that's what's at play here, because money equals the power that politicians crave so mightily.
No question. And 2 quick points. I mean, yesterday's interview was really revealing in the sense that Buttigieg admitted that they need to now construct a formula to allow them to distribute about 40% to privileged communities on their definition of underserved communities, which of course is going to be a woke definition. So that is incredibly, that's where I get the notion that this is designed to reconstruct on the basis of power politics. And so this is something that, and the other aspect is the reporter mentioned that she's opposed to widening of roads. Well, if widening roads is what will lead you to a per se definition of racism, we have a real problem now in terms of what actual infrastructure is. Are we ever going to be able to do roads and bridges? Maybe that explains why roads and bridges is such a small percentage of this package. It really gets to the fundamentals of what this administration's agenda is.
It does. Russ, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part you were saying. You said it gets to the fundamentals of what this administration is doing. What is that before we go?
Yeah, very simply, that an infrastructure package that only has about 10% for roads and bridges, it gets, if you dig deeper, it is because it's animated by this woke agenda that doesn't really want to do roads and bridges. It wants to do something else. It wants to reconstruct communities.
Russ Vought, great to see you. So much to talk about. More time next time. Always a pleasure, sir. Thank you. Coming up.